You are about to journey against the current of contemporary thought and beyond the troubled waters of daily news to the very source of our extraordinary culture. You are going upstream with Cashel and Edge.
Hey, welcome, Loy Edge, to, what's her name? Upstream with Cashel and Edge. There we are.
Upstream, man.
I have to remember what that's. You know what we haven't done in a long time is explain what we mean by upstream.
What? How did that name come about, Jim?
Well, just for those who are just new to the show, those millions who are tuning in for the first time today, we took that title from the late great Andrew Breitbart, whose famous saying was that all politics is downstream from culture.
That's right.
So we thought we'd go upstream to where the culture is.
We're kind of tired of that downstream.
Day by day, kind of, you know. So speaking of culture, I'm going to throw this to the audience because someone's going to look it up in the audience. You were just singing. Start the song you just sang before and the words you used to sing it. Fairy tales?
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you.
Okay, now you can stop there. Now I'm going to wager, and I could be wrong because I haven't looked this up, that it should be fairy tales will come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart.
And you may be right.
So we'll let the audience look that up and see which of us is stupid. And that reminds me, oddly, would provoke...
Is it like the pompatus of love? Go ahead.
Would remind me, speaking of culture, I had a good friend who died only a few months ago, Jim Jackson. You may know Jim.
Yeah, sorry.
Good fellow. We were very close. And he was also very trivia-oriented. I don't know if trivia is the right word, but he had a broad range of knowledge. And we would sometimes...
When he passed away, we lost a good percentage of our listening.
No, Jim was I think that would not be fair to say that. Although in my heart, it was a big part because we were close.
He was a great guy.
Yep. And... but we would constantly joust about trivia things. And pre-Google, you didn't have much... your word is as good as anyone else's. And I remember we got into this one big argument about a particular song that was playing on the radio just as I pulled into the parking lot. And it was Lipstick on Your Collar.
Shame on you.
Right. Now, who do you think is the songstress behind that?
Oh, gosh, I wouldn't have any. I can't remember that.
Well, he said it was Connie Francis. And I insisted it was Annette Funicello, right?
Okay.
And I was wrong.
Well, damn it.
I mean, it happens so rarely. I was in shock.
You've got into a whole blind spot area for me on that. Those kind of singers of that era. But I'm shocked that you were wrong as well. I got to admit.
The upside of
That's why I'm not betting against you. I'm betting against myself on fairy tales can come true.
You may be right. I don't know. It just sounded wrong when you started singing it.
Google? What is Frank Sinatra? You again, Loy. Haven't you learned all those songs?
But, and that leads into what we're talking today about cultural elements and a phenomenon that I began to notice several years ago. You probably noticed it before I did, given your experience as a bar owner and raconteur, is that there was a particular group in America that were marching us towards fascism. And it's not who the media would have us believe.
True.
And because we don't take them seriously.
Yep, they were always in kind of a little hothouse environment.
That's right.
Where they were allowed to flourish and look
right.
all green and almost like like if they were out in the real wilderness having to really fight it out. But they're cute in there.
Yeah, right. And you overhear them at lunch sometimes. They're talking. I remember a few years ago I was at lunch at what was the place? The French place.
Actuat?
No, not that one. The other one, the one in Prairie Village.
Prairie Village, yeah.
I forget the name of it. But
Patrick's place.
There's a couple women sitting at the table next to me. I was by myself. And so you overhear these conversations. And the woman said, I could never vote for Josh Hawley for Senate. And the other woman said, why? And she said, did you see his hair? I said, okay, there's our republic going down the drain on this one. But I decided to give, a year ago, on September 9th, 2022, American Thinker published my article on this And I got rejected a couple places because it was a little controversial. And I
Too close to the editor's suite, I would guess.
that could be true. But the phenomenon, I gave it a name, an acronym, ELF, Educated Liberal Female, which in the COVID era emerged by the shorthand Karen, right? That's who they were.
Yeah.
Who, unlike other classes of females, like conservative females know as much as conservative men. Typically, they've studied their way to that position. Uneducated liberal women don't venture opinions in the marketplace aggressively, but educated liberal females do.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And not only that, but they don't want to hear anything else.
Jack.
And I'm sure you have experience. You know what I'm talking about.
No.
Oh, no. Do you have a date tonight? I mean, are you trying to preserve your
I gave up on that a long time ago.
your viability?
No, actually, of course I know what you're talking about, and that's why I don't have a date tonight.
Well, and we rarely have discussions with these people, the elves, because they don't want to be exposed to what you and I and millions of other people know.
They don't.
Because
they go crazy.
Yeah, they do go crazy. And I have to tell you about a recent experience of mine that's actually relevant to my book, Untenable.
Oh, that's that Untenable book. That's going like hotcakes, I'll bet.
It is, and it's the true story of, what is the true story of? White ethnic flight from America's cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a memoir in large part.
From Newark.
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 Bork, right?
Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. And so it's hard to write memoirs that are controversial, although, and I support everything, all the reportage I do with facts, and I've appeared on C-SPAN's, Book TV, et cetera.
Boy, have you.
Yes, many times, and including for this book.
Sunday.
Well, that was a couple Sundays ago.
Yeah.
But they run it periodically.
Podcast world.
Yeah, right. They run it periodically on other Sundays. I don't know. It may be running on Sundays forever, or the elves may intervene, right? So here's what happens. I spent a good chunk of my summer in Western New York in a town called Fredonia, and it's right on Lake Erie. My home is summer home in my cottage, whatever, is right on the lake. So it's a poor man's Riviera. You can't see the other side. You have waves, and the price of housing is roughly 1/20th of what it would be on the California coast for the same house.
Hey, I can go to my apartment pool and squint hard enough, and I'm in the Riviera.
There you are. What's the difference, right?
What's the difference?
Well, the girls at your pool are probably wearing tops, but that's gone out of fashion in France. Oddly, toplessness.
What's it? Toplessness.
Yeah. When I lived there,
I've never been a big proponent of toplessness.
No, it's a terrible idea.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it discriminates against people who are over 30, for starters.
Yeah.
And it forces you to become a voyeur.
It does. I hate that.
Yeah.
You know what I hate is when it forces you to surreptitiously take photographs.
I hate that too. and the videos, Actually, what I found very off-putting when I spent a year in France some years ago. And I remember being at a pool in a very posh, kind of nice resort. And the girls there were like 12 or 13 years old,
Yeah.
And I'm saying, this is not right. Shouldn't be exposing adult males.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that when I was traveling in Europe.
Yeah.
They were pubescent.
Right. They should have an over 18, limitation or something. Plus, it makes other women envious because at 12 or 13, you're probably at your perkiest or whatever, I don't really think about those things often, but when they come up. That was a major digression from what I was talking about here.
See, this is how government gets into these traps. They start out doing things like patching potholes.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're putting on pedo parties. for all their friends.
Well, it's one step.
I mean, globally, they're like calling each other on satellite cell phones, going, "Hey, you got the pizza?"
Right.
Yeah, I got the pizza.
Just bring one slice of Italian sausage and one slice of margarita pizza. I don't know, but so what happens is and it's kind of a semi-amusing story. So we're up at this place in the lake. That's how we get started. We get to digress from from the Riviera.
I forgot. We're at the lake. Okay.
And part of it is a lot of Middle Europeans there. So some people call it the Polish Riviera, which is, I think, meant as a ethnic slur, but I don't take it that way. I would call it the Redneck Riviera, the Rust Belt Riviera is probably better. And so I've been going there for years. We go to a local library, charming little library in the town. There's 10,000 people. Might as well be a Mayberry RFD. Even the post office people are nice. The librarians are nice, and everything's nice.
People
and simple.
waving at you and
That's right.
stuff.
Hi, Jack. Hey, Well, maybe not anymore, but so my wife goes to the library one day, and she sees my first novel on the shelf. It's 2006, Chautauqua Rising. And she talks to the librarian there, and the librarian says, "Oh, yeah, I was a big fan of the book, and Jack, blah, blah, blah." And then, my wife said, "Oh, he's my husband," et cetera, et cetera. So she comes home and she says, "You should email this lady and thank her for putting the book out." You see, when you get married, you have people telling you how to think and behave, You don't have to do that for yourself.
No, that's why I'm a cad. and you are a gentleman with quite a fine reputation, thanks to your wife.
That's right. Keeps me in line. And so anyhow, I email her, right, which sets off a chain of incidents that will bring the elves of Fredonia out in full force. So I email her back. I say, "Oh, thanks. I love the library. If there's anything I ever could do to help, just let me know." And then she emails me back and says, "Yeah, how would you like to do a book presentation some Saturday afternoon?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, happy to do that." I'm not getting paid or anything.
No, and think about this. So you got a small town library.
Right.
They've got a fairly well-recognized author. You've published
17 books.
17 books.
Right.
So you're not like starting out.
Right.
You're a well-established author, and not particularly of, I would say, controversial.
Not particularly. Not in my world.
You're just presenting what you consider to be journalistic integrity and facts, and so it's a journalistic pursuit for you. You're pursuing truth. You're not out there doing the Michael Moore, let's get half the country pissed off.
Right. Let's make up facts. And
so from their perspective, it's a win.
Well, it should be.
They've got something going on for their quiet little library. They can put something in their monthly calendar.
That's right. It's exactly. And the monthly calendar is what sets everything off.
Yeah.
Because I confer with this woman, and we send out the notice, a little picture of me in a book, and this is what the book looks like, Untenable, true story. And I say, it's like I just took the stuff off the book jacket. Jack had an inside seat on the collapse of a major northern city in Newark, New Jersey, and he, tells about what it was like to be there, blah, blah, blah. And so it goes out, and then about a week after it goes out, I get a long email from the library. And as soon as I see the length of it, I know what's happening.
There's a lot of tap dancing and side shuffling and...
That's exactly right. In a small town, they've got to fill it with pleasantries.
Right.
And the guy starts off... It's a guy, first of all, with a hyphenated last name, which I immediately distrust him for that reason.
You're in trouble. if he's not French, then something's wrong.
Right. He's either married to another guy.
He better be Jean-Luc, Ferret.
Right. Right. And if it is an Anglo-Saxon name and it's hyphenated, two possibilities. One is he was born into money, so we'd have nothing in common. And the other is that he married someone who told him to put his or her name on his name, So anyhow, that's what it starts off. I hope you're feeling well. Why are you saying that? You're just about ready to slam.
You don't even know me.
Yeah, right. And you're about ready.
Why, did I look sick? What?
And he's about ready to like bash my head into the
Right.
canvas, you know.
I hope you're feeling well.
And he goes, you know, and we here after serious consultation with our stakeholders, blah blah blah, and due to recent developments, that's the phrase, recent developments, we have found your book unsuitable for our unsuitable. These are quote words for our diverse audiences. As much as we value a lively diversity of opinion, right? He has diverse and diversity back to back, contradicting each other, pure Orwellian doublethink. So, and then he says we have to disinvite you, right? And so I wrote an article for it the next day. I didn't respond to his email. I just thought I'd have fun with it, you know, exploit it for marketing purposes, you know, if I have to. And I said, I speculated on what those recent developments were. And I said, I imagine by recent developments, he means a letter from a Karen or two who hasn't read the book, but who doesn't want to expose herself to something she doesn't agree with, right? Mm-hmm. So then a friend of mine from that area, Chautauqua County, which Trump took by 20 points, by the way. It's not like it's a hotbed of wokeness. She writes in and says, and she... belittling letter to this guy, you little man. She says, you know, goes after him. And she goes, how dare you let a bunch of Karens dictate, you know, what you're doing here with this author. She made the same argument you did. You know, we have a good author here, blah, blah, blah. So the Karen theme has already been entered speculatively, right? And then through a back channel, I get a copy of an email from one of the trustees as to why they had to cancel, you know. And the guy was just saying, well, we didn't want the ruckus, all the BS and whatnot, you know. And he goes, we responded to a series of correspondences, you know, telling us that this selection of me speaking was inappropriate, et cetera. And then here's the beauty sentence. He says, oddly, these communications were all from women, right? I said, not oddly, inevitably, they were all from women, right? And the irony of this is that the scheduled date for the talk was September 9, 2023. My article on the elves, an American thinker, was September 9, 2022, exactly 1 year later. The elves had their revenge, right? They blocked me from speaking at their library. And I concluded the article on an American thinker by saying, whatever there is by and large, they live in a bubble. But whenever there's a chance that there's some information will seep into that bubble that they don't want to hear, they'll be the first to shut it down. And it's like prophetic. I mean, they lived up to my expectations or down to my expectations.
But they have to do that because if you think about it, all of the skills of argumentation
right.
and things that they picked up with this expensive, worthless college education that they have now, it's atrophying.
Yeah.
And they have no one to lash out and argue and show how smart they are and pronounce and stand on the soapbox and shout down and do all those great college things. They're relegated to a life of internet likes and dislikes and going to Hobby Lobby. And so, Jack, they gotta get in there and show everybody that their college wasn't a waste.
Well, I think that's a big part of it, because you when you meet women like this, and again, an elf is an educated liberal female. So if you're conservative, you're listening to this, you're excluded from this category altogether. It's like as they were from another planet from you, you know? Because a couple of people came to my defense were females, and they were rousing defenses. They were more vituperative than I could ever hope to be. You know? They go after the jugular, you know, the point of vulnerability. You little man. Okay.
They were paying attention in their composition class.
They were reading like a Call of the Wild, not Jane Eyre. But although I like Jane Eyre, So that was that's the way they are, because exterior information they see as a threat, and that's why they reacted as viciously as they did to when Elon Musk opened up Twitter. When you think about it, why would they have been concerned about that? Because if you do Twitter, do you or do you not?
I did. I got Google kept asking me for too many questions, and I quit doing it.
Okay.
I had thousands of followers under an assumed name, and I gave it up. I threw it away.
It can get. There are days I just say, no, I'm giving this up. I'm tired of it, but I'll come back because it's where I. It's given what I do, it's where I have to be.
Well, yeah, and plus it's one of those things. It's like having a bowl of M&M's peanuts on your desk.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't do that.
If you don't want to eat the damn things, get them off your desk.
Right.
You're going to go to Twitter if it's on your computer.
Speaking of which, M&M peanuts are the only food I eat in the car when I'm traveling. Right.
Oh, good for you.
Because they come in a little package.
Yeah.
You can put them in your pocket.
And they get they on your not on your hands. What was that?
They melt in your mouth, not in your hands.
Plain and peanut.
But that's
melt in your mouth, not in your hands.
That's a canard though, because they will melt.
They will melt on your hand.
So my challenge is now you go into like a truck stop and they sell what do they call it? Share size. They've sized up M&Ms, which is too many M&Ms for me to feel good about eating. So the challenge for me is to eat a few of my M&Ms and then stash it in the console or someplace where I can't get at it. But I always fail before the trip is over and I eat them all. But no, that is where did that one start?
I don't know, but what's weird is I'm sitting here and we're off track. But I've got this ad that I found in this because when you talked about educated females, I happen to have this Photo Play magazine. That's one of these movie. Since I'm the old movie magazine guy and the old Life magazine guy, I thought, well, maybe there's something about college-educated females, educated liberal females, which there is. This is a 1964 Photo Play, but I got distracted when I was looking for it. I did find some advice to young girls before they were going to college.
Right.
This is 64. This is right about when they all started going to college.
That's right. That's a baby boom era, just maturing.
But this is funny because this is an ad for Ipana toothpaste.
I remember that. Brusha, brusha, brusha.
And it has a man and a woman. They've got a little daughter. She has a soft drink in her hands.
Right.
And they've got an ice cream cone that they're cramming into her mouth at the same time that she's got a straw with soda pop. And they've got a big, giant platter of cupcakes, frosted, and soft drinks in the middle.
Right.
And what they've done, though, Ipana has a new acid inhibitor, WD-9, in their toothpaste. So what they're telling you here is...
I thought you used WD-9 to, grease your bicycle or something.
I do, but some people use it for toothpaste. Don't cut down sweets. Do cut down cavities with new Ipana. So what they're telling you in here is do not cut down the amount of sweets. Now you can eat. Now enjoy sweet treats and protect your teeth from cavities. Now White with this Ipana. So it's telling you to eat more sweets.
Right.
Now what's funny, I thought, well, that seems weird. And I looked down there and in tiny letters, Ipana is a product of Bristol-Myers. Well, you know who Bristol-Myers, they merged with Squibb, and they made a product called Sweeta, which was the artificial sweetener that diabetics used.
Sure, right.
And Bristol-Myers Squibb became a diabetic medicine company. I thought it was kind of funny. They were saying, hey, eat more candy. Stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No. That's
I got a little distracted.
A useful digression because I remember Bucky the Beaver, who was the
Ipana spokesbeaver.
Spokesbeaver, right?
Who's your favorite spokesbeaver? I'm not
I'm
going
going to
to
stick with Bucky here.
Yeah, I think so.
The safe answer: brusha, brusha, brusha. New Ipana toothpaste.
That's right. Ipana.
My dentist, by the way, as a childhood dentist, Dr. Strollo, he drove a pink Cadillac. After a dental visit, he would give us a gift certificate for an ice cream cone at the little shop next door. It was sort of, what's that word? Harvesting your own business, or sort of stimulating your own business organically.
He's your Hegelian dialectic dentist.
I never thought of it in those ways, but then again, I was only like 9 years old.
Problem,
solution.
These liberal girls all started going to college,
Right.
but that is a kind of a setup for disaster when you think about it. Because why did people go to college? Historically, why did people go to college?
Men or women? Because they went for different reasons.
That's right.
Yeah. Men went to get the credentials to have a meaningful job and, as a lawyer, a doctor, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Women in the 60s went to find a husband.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, primarily. Secondarily to major in education or something, nursing, which is useful, at least, unlike education. That was the paradigm in the 60s.
But the find the husband objective was never officially publicly defined as. It was a joke. It was a joke like honeydews and things like that, where people go, "Isn't it great? My marriage is terrible, and my wife's always telling me what to do, and my life sucks." Yeah, those honeydews. It's just one of those things people joke about all the time, and I'm looking at it going, "That ain't funny."
Yeah, right. No.
Good Lord.
Yeah, if you're.
But anyway,
chained to the yoke.
So these people, there's no defined objective for them to go to college.
Right.
It's kind of like this: just hurt Donald Trump, just get even. Well, what did you do that's going to help it? It doesn't matter. Did he hurt Trump? Yes. Okay, that's good.
Right. That's right.
Okay. What are you going to do with your college education? What does it matter? At least I'm keeping one more man out of that chair.
Well, now, and they're keeping it so well that the colleges are declining.
That's right. And men aren't getting college.
Right. So now it's like 60 to 40 female, right, in the university system right now. And I had an incident in my house not just recently where I had to bring in a plumber and environmental remediation. It wasn't a big thing, but it took 4 guys to do it, right? Because a lot of equipment, a lot of movement and stuff. I'm thinking, these are the guys who used to go to college, right? Now they're all making decent livings. They're in their 20s, early 30s, which is a good time to do what they're doing. It's very physical work. I've never met a female plumber. There may be one out there, but I haven't met her. But there are 1% of that market.
I'll introduce you to Lisa Garney.
We'll see if she can do my plumbing for me, and we'll bring her over. But so that's what's happening. I mean, guys now are saying, why to go to college? What am I going to major in? Gender studies? Or am I going to take, I majored in English. I would never send a kid to major in English today because it's all junk.
It's junk. You've got to look at the dynamism of it and go, okay, here's women and their participation in college. And here's men, okay. And then here's the value of college.
Right, that's right.
So they're catching a falling knife anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, great. Nobody should be supporting these places.
No, and
it's a broken model. It's
a totally broken model. And and the thing is, they're going to universities now, and they're being taught by baby boomers. In some universities, the typical ratio of conservatives to liberals is about 1 in 20. So unless a girl comes into college with a very strong, usually Christian background or Orthodox Jewish background, and is being, fortified by her family throughout, they'll flip her. They'll turn her.
They'll flip her. Oh, yeah.
And
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it very close.
And I had an experience. I probably shouldn't talk about my family, but I like this girl actually. But she lectured us. We're in my family reunion vacation last month, and she was wonderful because she was so ingenuous about it. Lectured us on male toxicity. She's 25 years old, and she was so right out of the book, right out of the gender studies book. I had to give her credit for. She probably got an A in her course because she remembered it all. But gender studies, you don't have to be a gender studies major to have your head turned down wrong. Because I had a friend the other day just ask me, he said, he goes, he's a retired guy. He says, I was interested in auditing some English courses at the UMKC. And my wife had been a professor there for 40 years. And he said, do you have any recommendations? I said, yeah, don't audit an English course at UMKC. It's all junk. It's all going to be race and sex and Shakespeare's Macbeth or something. That's all the gender, race, colonial, Marxist filter. Everything is being strained through that, and at the end of which you get intellectual spaghetti. I mean, it's nothing. It's just not stuff you want to take away. You could walk away with that one single fact that could stand 15 minutes of debate in the marketplace.
That's right. It's all victim mentality, zero-sum stuff.
And the net result is, and women hate to admit this, liberal, educated women, I'm talking about here, elves, is that in every political knowledge test I've ever seen, men do better than women. In other words, men typically know more about politics than women. And this is verifiable. I give you, for instance, I was hosting a daily radio show at KMBZ.
Which I loved.
We had on as guest Catherine Shields, who was then the county executive. Mm-hmm. And I raised...
Is this with Glorioso or Mary?
I think it was with Mary, because she freaked out too. I raised the... Glorioso would have verified what I said. I said to Catherine Shields, just what I said to you. I said, in every documented test of political knowledge, in every country of the world, men do better than women. And she flipped out, right? Mm-hmm. Mary flips out. Mm-hmm. The switchboard lights up. Uh-huh. The station manager runs in, and at the break he says he demands that I apologize. Uh-huh. I said, I'm not going to apologize for saying something that's demonstrably, provably true. Uh-huh. And I wouldn't. I think they fired me about 2 weeks later, but I lasted not much longer. Mary was...
That's okay, Jack. Keep in mind, this is the city wherein one Rush Hudson Limbaugh
got fired.
Trotted out the persona for which he later became extremely wealthy and globally known, probably the most famous radio personality ever.
Yeah.
They canned his ass out of Kansas City because of those same Karens calling up, complaining, going, you can't say these things. He can't say, well, you can't. And it's like, okay. They let him go, and then they had to pay forever to have him piped in from another city.
And my show on KMBZ was in that very studio that Rush Limbaugh occupied.
Is that right?
And it preceded the Rush Limbaugh show, so we had a good audience, And one day, they were doing remodeling, so we auctioned off the Rush Limbaugh chair. Right? Uh-huh. And we had two guys going back for a charity, right? They're going back and forth. This is on the air. And the one guy said, yeah, I'm going to get that chair, and I'm going to build like a little shrine around, a little museum. And the other guy said, I'm going to get that chair, I'm going to set it, light it, lather it with kerosene and set it on fire and shoot it while it's burning, right? He won. He kept going, That's like Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, these people can be so fixated that they just don't know where to stop.
Well, Limbaugh and Trump have that in common.
Yeah.
And I think of this often because they both played into it.
Right.
With such verve.
That's right.
They both embraced it so lovingly.
Yeah.
It's like my braggadocio, bombastic, over the top, self-important, self-righteous, self-aggrandizing humor,
Right. With
which
one.
goes right by them
With,
and pisses them off.
and they miss the irony altogether.
Of course.
With one hand tied behind my back. you
Yeah.
know? And yet, I really miss Rush Limbaugh. He was,
Talent on loan from God.
that's right. And they would, our elves would flip out about that. In fact, the one time they got in trouble was when he stepped too hard on elfdom, into elfdom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he said, what was that word that...
I remember the word. I don't remember the woman's name.
I don't remember her name either.
She was a law student at Georgetown, and she testified that the state should pay for her birth control, right?
Uh-huh.
And because they were not going to pay for it. And then Rush, through the dialectic process, worked his way up to, let's see.
I got the name.
Yeah, you remember the word.
Fluck.
Oh, that's right.
Fluck.
What a name. What a name for radio. What a name to make fun of. And do you remember the word? So he's going through this kind of syllogism where, let's see, if you expect to be paid for having sex,
Yeah.
well, that makes you kind of a slut. That was the word he used, which he could have used a lot worse things than that. Could have said prostitute or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And that's when they really rained hell on him. And that's one time he had to back off a little bit, But you see, he, I think, was beginning to understand that elves, educated liberal females, are the ones who are going to come and get you. I mean,
who do elves hate worse than Donald Trump and Rush Limbaugh? I mean, those two guys really had their number when
That's
you
right.
think about it.
Because they teased them.
They teased them.
Right.
And they have no humor. I mean, the humor is low.
Right.
It's almost like you could go into a room full of jet pilots or surgeons and say, the empathy level in this room is not very high.
Right.
These guys aren't here for their empathy.
Right.
Well, I'm telling you what, the humor level, it's like the old joke about the feminist bookstore. There is no humor section here, sir.
There's a show on Sirius like female comedians, and it's painful to listen to. Actually, some very good female comedians.
There are.
They're not the ones who show up on the show, though. And no, they were they did not know how to deal with that. The absence of irony. I mean, in that world, there's a serious case of irony deficiency, and I'm not sure there's any solution for it. I also found that in these surveys of internationally, and they do serious surveys with multiple thousands of people across the world on political knowledge. And on political knowledge as well, conservatives always win, always beat liberals. And independents come in last.
Well, these are publishers that are doing these.
No, these are
surveys.
like, Pew and other
Okay.
Brookings.
All right.
I mean, these are serious because they're trying to find the case where it doesn't work, right?
Well, I think everybody, almost anybody, would just on its face say, yeah, men are more inclined
Right.
toward politics and mathematics
Right.
and technical issue, and so they're going to do better. But that makes people mad.
It does. And so what these studies found, and
Somebody's got to do better than the other.
And what the studies found, and this is would seem counterinstinctive, it's not what they expected to find, is the argument had been that as women get better educated and they get more and more of them have college degrees, more and more of them become elves, that they will begin to surpass men in political knowledge. But what they found is the more developed the country, Australia, England, the United States, et cetera, the wider the gap. So women who lived in Turkey and Syria and Greece and Italy had a relatively narrow gap because they were, to them, politics was life. They're engaged in this stuff because it
matters.
It matters. Whereas in the United States, England, et cetera,
It's abstract.
Totally. And they know they're going to be comfortable regardless. They're going to be taken care of. They're not worried about their...
Enough people, if it goes the wrong way, the way I don't like it, enough people like me will cry and whine and cluster our pearls.
And we'll make it right.
And we'll make it right. And the media will come in and bully everybody, and we'll get it all fixed.
Right. And this, when you read the studies and the rationales for them, the people who do the studies are always disappointed at the end of the study because it's disproving what they had hoped to find. And the numbers are sufficiently dramatic, they can't write it off to, what do you call it, statistical irrelevance or confirmation bias or whatever. But the answers are obvious. A is that men typically are more out in the world, more engaged. You know that. We go to the same breakfast club. That is not the kind of conversation you would have had at a group of women's breakfast club. That's fine. I mean, that shouldn't be an issue. Except that now with their master's degrees, like Dr. Jill Biden, right? I mean, there's a classic. If there's an elf, like a chief elf, it would be Dr. Jill Biden.
Yeah, that's fun to think of. It's fun to think of those because they're so despicable. I love them, man. Yeah, thinking about people that I can't stand.
And what's intriguing about Dr. Jill is the doctor part, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's at one point early on, and the view is like a beehive of elfdom. I'm not even sure they're educated, though. I mean, they think they are, but who knows? They probably have like bachelor's degrees from Queens College or something. But when they first were exposed to Dr. Jill Biden, Whoopi Goldberg suggested that she be named Surgeon General. Mm-hmm. Well, she has a educational degree from the University of Delaware, right? Which was after she was married to the U.S. Senator from Delaware. I've read her doctoral thesis. And sheer awfulness, it rivals Michelle Obama's Princeton thesis, right? And yet...
Boy, you creep around reading all these theses.
I'm into theses.
Your theses are feces, my dears.
I try not to step on them when I'm walking the streets of San Francisco.
Dr. Jill, I love the doctor thing when people just get a little too proud of that.
So you have the phenomenon then becomes you have the combination is toxic when they're all in one body. They've gone to college,
right?
And as you suggest, they have to show that they got something out of it. A lot of them get their master's degree. That way they can say to you, "Oh, I have a master's degree." You ever notice that? I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, absolutely. You've got to get a special degree so that you can say doctor or
right.
I have a
master's degree. And you don't, right?
Right.
So that gives them the leg up. They also know, they sense, they don't know, they sense that their knowledge cannot survive a day in the wild. And to maintain that sense of self, their self-esteem, they can't venture into the wild.
No, it has to remain in academia.
And so then when someone threatens to enter a world they control, like the Darwin Barker Library in Fredonia, New York,
mm-hmm.
where my book was scheduled was supposed to be talked about on September 9th, mm-hmm. they panic. Mm-hmm. And they send, who would think to do that? It's not like, I mean, our conservative women may protest, gentlemen flashing their you-know-whats to 3-year-olds in the library rumpus reading room.
Right.
A gentleman of dubious sexuality. But that's 3-year-olds you're protecting. In this case, these women are protecting 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds, right? Mm-hmm. And
the nanny state knows no limits.
And the nanny state that's right. And the nanny state is the path to fascism. I mean, it's the kid glove path to fascism. That's why they became Karens during COVID, Karens during climate, Karens during whatever phenomena comes up, because they don't know enough. They're insecure about it. And so they compensate by being loud in forums where they're not going to be tested or challenged. 97% of all scientists agree with me.
That's right.
And that's one guy, I posted an article about this, and he said another phrase that's used instead of elf, and I kind of like elf because it's kind of cute, and I still imagine women being cute. I have that And that possibility continues to exist.
I'm sure the elves really appreciate the fact that you think they're cute.
Or can be.
Can be cute.
Or
There we
will
go
be.
again.
Right. We'll go back to can or will. But they, his acronym was AWFL. What is it? What's the A stand for? Affluent. White, female liberals, right? Awful. Right. But see, to me, the real variable is educated, right? And liberal. Those are the two variables that are killers. Females are great. Conservative females are even greater because they're working against the grain. They've got to go to like clubs with these people, and listen to them blather on about Josh Hawley's hair, or whatever. It's got to be difficult. But I'm glad they're out there. Now, and that's it. I've always appreciated conservative women for that reason, since they're working against the grain. We're not. You and I aren't. They are. And let's hope they continue.
Well,
to do it.
there was a time, and I went to this photo play magazine, when there was another viable option.
Yes.
Which was
motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a good spouse. Find a decent guy.
Right.
Well, there happened to be in this first magazine that I picked up some advice.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
From a very established Hollywood presence who was an older man to these young girls, and he was giving tips to teenagers. Don't call that boy a square. And what he's doing is he's telling girls that you got to look beyond the gawkiness of some of these nerdy guys and guys that may not be that polished or slick, but they have good qualities. They mean well. They could be very good spouses, and it could lead to a satisfying and happy life with someone if you just pay attention to them, and become the type of a woman that would be valuable to a good man. And of course they went to Rock Hudson.
Who else?
I mean, who else? Rock Hudson's giving these gals advice.
Well, if he doesn't know the female dynamic, who does?
I don't know
about that, right? He had a little gift.
How did these gals get so screwed up when you got people like Rock Hudson giving you advice? I don't know.
In fact, the more and more people like Rock Hudson in their world, the more less likely they are to marry and have children. And it's it's one thing being single and childless. It's another thing being a grandmotherly age without grandchildren. And that's when I think it begins to dawn on them that maybe they took the wrong road,
Oh, yeah.
And so that's when they start writing letters to the Darwin Parker Library, demanding that I be censored, as they seem to have succeeded in doing. It's still a little way to September 9th, so we'll find out soon enough. But boy, we had a very adventurous journey upstream today.
Yeah, we kind of paddled around, didn't we?
A little bit, but caught in various eddies and swirls. We are broadcasting, of course, from the Real Media Studios here in Overland Park, Kansas, the Kansas City suburb.
Great studio.
And it's I would recommend seriously that if you have any kind of media needs, including podcasts or whatever else,
this is the place to do it.
It is.
Call Brad.
Full service, Brad Barrow and Carly, our wonderful producer. And we will see you all next week.